Greetings, all my duckies out there. I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and I'm coming at you with another episode of DuckTales. It's Season two's Episode 18, titled Happy Birthday, Doofus Drake. I'm sorry, Doofus Drake is such a weirdo, but this episode wasn't quite bad, but let's get into it before we go any further, as even Scrooge finds that something is off. Something's off in his mansion, and he's determined to find out what it is, what this feeling is. Is it Webby and the girls wrestling a bear-like creature? No, that's not it. Is it Dewey and Mrs. Beakley wrestling with this hurricane in a teapot? Nah, that's not it. Is it Della and Huey about to play a World of Warcraft ripoff style game called Legends of Legend Quest? No, that's not it either. Although that is kind of weird. No, it's none of those things. What could it possibly be? Oh, it's Goldie sitting in his office. That's the worst thing. And even worse upon that is that Louie let her in. As we come to find out that, in the previous episode that we had Scrooge and Louie together, where he told the tale of when uh, Goldie and Scrooge were in the Old West trying to mine their fortune. The lesson he learned from that is that he has a lot in common with Goldie, so he figured that he'd learn a few things from her, much to the warnings of Scrooge. And while Louis feels that he's got this, he ends up locked inside a chest. Ultimately he's learned the biggest lesson of them all. You don't trust Goldie, oh Guild. However, Goldie ultimately does release Louie in the fact that she wants to go to Doofus Drake's birthday party with him as her nephew for the most part, much to Louie's cringe. He's just not ready to deal with all that. Like all the things that are Doofus Drake, whatever those things may be. All of which are awful. Absolutely awful. So he ultimately agrees. Meanwhile, Della and Huey are actually spending some quality time together as they are playing some good old-fashioned Vidyas Games. And while Della goes in as this battle-hardened warrior with all this armor and a scouter and a sword and a mega buster, she's looking pretty cool. Huey, on the other hand, is a simple farmer, and that's all he's really interested in. Farming under this literal bubble, this protective dome to keep his farm safe from the outside world. And the most things that he fights are these little critters trying to eat his crops. This is all he wants to do. This is all he does do. And Della isn't quite thrilled with this. Meanwhile, at Doofus Drake's birthday party, we see a motley crew of partygoers and a few fiends at that. And while Louis has his reservations in going in, he still finds the typical brand of weirdness that is so prevalent when it comes to Doofus Drake. However, the one thing that they do manage to find that they're both interested in is the goodie bags for guests who leave. However, they are only for guests who are leaving the party. So they'll have to wait it out until the end of things, because while Louis just wants to grab one bag and get out of Dodge, Goldie is all about getting all the bags, going for the long con, because that's what Louis wanted to learn, right? The long con. Now, Doofus Drake is actually presenting this whole party in tribute to his Gamimama, his grandma who gave her entire fortune to Doofus, who he misses terribly. who was his only parent, as he puts it. Apparently, something happened between Doofus and his parents that caused this weird rift to form, where they're now his servants. I would really like the backstory on that. That's an interesting story in and of itself. However, while Doofus is happy to have all these people in attendance, he feels that there are liars amongst the group, as his party is all about the loving memory of a parent and child. So he feels that fakers should be punished. One of which is this weird Willy Wonka-esque looking dude, and one of the guys from the Ottoman Empire, but he's very keen on the fact that, that guy ain't no child. And so he punishes the dude by tossing him into his honey bin. No, I did not speak. Not his money bin, his honey bin. Full of bees. Not the bees. Not the bees. And the Beagle Boys immediately get dumped as well because, well, they're the Beagle Boys, of course. While Goldie O'Gill feels that they have it in the bag, they still have competition left, namely in Mark Beaks and his son, as well as Glomgold and his son. But, well, Glomgold introduces his boy, who's obviously a puppet. Doofus Drake seems to actually be taken with him for the most part. But Goldie and Louie feel like Glomgold will be their first mark in trying to get all the goodie bags for themselves. Meanwhile, when they actually inquire as to, hey, Mark Beaks, since when the hell do you have a son? He says, well, since I found that it would be something, that would get me more likes on social media and such. He introduces himself as Boyd Beaks, and he seems to be very nice, very chipper, very friendly, very cute. And just all around, not Mark Beaks. So obviously something is up here, as we see that apparently all day yesterday, Mark and Boyd have been going all over the place, doing all kinds of fun activities and posting it on social media. One place is actually Lester's Possum Park from a Goofy movie, which is just really interesting to me, if nothing else. But we also see that Glomgold has pictures of him with his son as well. His son, who has a bit of a rebellious streak, which is worth noting, which is kind of odd that Glomgold would make this character who seems to just hate his guts for no apparent reason. But Louie is also able to take some pictures in a nearby phone booth. That way Goldie is able to show off the picture she has of her little nephew. But Doofus Streak seems to be okay with all of this and declares that everyone should come swim and have a little bit of frivolity. And while Glomgold seems to really kind of be pushing to get that money, ultimately Della and Louie decide that he'll probably be the easiest one to take down before Mark Beaks. Meanwhile, Della is having a boring time in the casual section of the game. We do see that Huey actually has a ton of XP, and if he had simply gone to a checkpoint, he'd be able to level up leaps and bounds, but he feels that he's where it's safe. Meanwhile, Launchpad comes flying by, wrestling this dragon, doing battle, just having a rip-roaring good time, and Della tries to persuade Huey to come and help her fight and help him out. Ultimately, Huey just lets her go, feeling that, ultimately she's just not having fun with all of this. So Launchpad and Della have fun just leveling up and just exploring the world. Meanwhile, Louie goes over to Glomgold to basically just mess with him, and hints that Goldie has an interest in Glomgold. But when Glomgold's son, air quotes, starts to kind of badmouth Glomgold in front of Goldie, he gets very irrational, as he often does, and completely rips his son apart. And, naturally, this leads to even more shenanigans. As Doofus, now in the know about the whole situation, immediately ejects Gomgold. No, he does try to struggle to stay in the game, he's unfortunately dumped into the honey bin. While Goldie and Louie congratulate themselves on a job well done, they end up getting pushed by an abnormally strong Boyd, who seems very sympathetic about doing this to them, much to the delight of Mark Beaks. But they've declared that Boyd and Mark are next on their list. Meanwhile, while Huey has finally managed to finish up his farming and is now playing the literal waiting game, Della is out there battling orcs and gaining new equipment. And, well, Huey starts to kind of get a little impatient, kind of wanting to may quite possibly step outside his comfort zone. And as he talks to his mother about possibly stepping out of his literal safety bubble, Della does her best in order to just show him that, hey, it's not scary, it'll be fun, it'll be fine, you'll be safe, it'll be perfect. So he lets down the shield and a monster immediately attacks his crops, much to Huey's devastation. Meanwhile, Goldie and Louie are trying their best to figure out the situation with Boyd. He seems perfect. He's kind, he's friendly, he spent all this time with Mark Beaks the other day. It's just very, very odd. Although Louie did notice that in all of Mark Beaks' feed, there's no pictures of Boyd as a baby, which, he knows that Mark would easily try to milk that, so that's very odd. But once they start to investigate further, they do notice this weird Wi-Fi network called Beaks Optimistic Youth Droid, and Goldie realizes, wait, B-O-Y-D spells Boyd. Oh my god, Boyd is a robot, which explains so much. No one could put up with Mark Beaks for that long. So they figure that a break in logic is the best way to expose Boyd. So they go up to him and question, hey Boyd, you had a lot of fun with your dad yesterday, right? What did you do the day before that? In fact, Boyd, when were you born? And he starts flipping out. I love the little Apple pinwheels that appear as his eyes. Hopefully they don't get sued by Apple over that crap. But she just starts freaking out and malfunctioning, and I love that Mark Beast is like, no, Boyd, do not peer behind the curtain. But he flips out. He engages what is known as fly swatter mode, which is just like, dude, Mark, chill. But he starts pulling out laser eyes like Jack from The Incredibles, just burning through everything. It's pandemonium, with him ultimately, malfunctioning and falling in the pool. Naturally, Mark is immediately ejected. And while Goldie and Louie congratulate each other on a job well done, Doofus is none too pleased, because he took a real liking to Boyd, and he's angry to have had a good friend completely just malfunctioning and rendered useless. Although Goldie immediately sells out Louie because of this, and even tries to play it off like she's punishing him by sending him home with no goodie bag, saying that he'll take his as punishment. However, Doofus Drake has other punishment in mind, specifically taking Mark Beaks' phone and sicking Boyd on Louie. And when Goldie inquires as to what exactly Doofus has in mind for Louie, he plans to beat him open like a piñata. Dark. But before Boyd can bash Louie and the candy out of him, Goldie steps in, not actually being chill with wholesale slaughter of a little child. However, we come to find out this is exactly what Doofus was looking for, a familial bond, a show of a love between a parent and a child. And because of this, he has decided to take Goldie as his new Gami Mama, his Goldie Mama, as he puts it. And he gives Louie all of the party favors and ejects him from the premises, much to the delight of Louie. Meanwhile, Della does her best to take on the flying monster, only to get in a little over her head. And with that, Huey feels that the only option of saving Della is to finally go in and level up, using up all the XP that he's earned over his time playing the game. And we have a weird reference as his power grows to level over 9,000. What, 9,000? God. Good memes never die, apparently, but he powers up DBZ-like, and he goes in utterly destroying the monster. Meanwhile, as Louie basks in his victory, he does start to kind of feel a little bad, because while Goldie did try to sell him out, she did come back for him. So he feels that he owes it to her to return the favor. And as Goldie is asked 1,000,001 stories by Doofus Drake, in comes Louie looking to get back his Aunt Goldie. And while Doofus is none too keen on having his Goldie Mama taken away, we find that Boyd comes in to rescue Goldie himself, under the control of Louie, as Doofus had accidentally thrown in Mark's phone with the goodie bags. And ultimately, Louie doesn't attack Doofus. He declares that what Doofus needs is not some grandma who will coddle him, but someone his own age who will play with him. So he turns over Boyd as the new son of the Drake parents. However, Doofus is none too keen on this, none too keen on having something like a baby brother. He just wants control, to have everything his way from here on out. However, since Doofus has control because he has all of his grandma's money, because Boyd is now Doofus's brother, he acquires half of all the money that Gami Mama gave to Doofus, meaning that now Doofus's parents also have half of that fortune, which much to the dismay of Doofus, who wanted it all for himself, and declares that this robot is no brother of mine. But now with enough power over him, his parents finally act like parents and ground Doofus Drake indefinitely. The power is back in their hands, and Doofus swears everlasting vengeance upon Louie. But Louie, he's already kind of gotten his bad situation, as he notices that Goldie has made off with his small fortune. And as Huey starts to lose himself to the unrelenting rage of video games, to the point where Della has to straight up pull him off of it, Louie sits down with Scrooge, and they kind of bond over the fact that Goldie will turn on you in a heartbeat. But he does elaborate that when you're always looking for an angle, sometimes you miss out on what's right in front of you. And that sometimes a scam is a scam, and someone who's up to no good will always be up to no good. But Louie does inquire as to why Goldie ultimately did save him in the end. And Scrooge explains that, while you spend enough time with someone, sometimes you manage to work your way into their hearts in your own special way. Goldie might be greedy, but she's not heartless, as we see that Goldie actually did cherish the time she spent with Louie, almost as much as her dear Scroogey. As she sets off with her newly acquired fortune, with a almost melancholic sigh, there's a lot more to Goldie O'Gild than most people like to think. A fun episode, a good time. Would have been nice to know what was going on with Donald, but Goldie's always fun, always crafty, always clever, and this was a good while coming after the last episode where Louie kind of made it clear that he was interested in learning from Goldie. But we'll see if maybe this encounter with Goldie O'Gild might shape Louie for the better, or possibly for the worse. We'll just have to wait and see. But tell me your thoughts and feelings in the comment section below. How did you feel about Goldie in this episode and her newly acquired bond with Louie? How did you feel about Doofus Drake and his continued madness? Do you hope that he'll turn into the old Doofus Drake who is a little bit more of a caring child? Or are you happy with the way he is here and now? And do you hope that he never changed? And what do you think about Boyd, who was on the season 3 poster? So he's definitely going to make a return. Not to mention, how did you feel about Della bonding with Huey? And do you feel that it was right for him to step out of his comfort zone? Or do you think that gave him a turn for the worse? Very interesting things indeed. But, well, that's another episode down. I'm slowly making my way to the end of the season. Man, I'm both okay and kind of melancholic at the fact that it's burning up so fast. But I am excited to see season 3 and all that it has to offer. But leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. If you liked this video, feel free to leave me a like, and if you didn't, feel free to leave me a dislike and tell me what I did wrong in the comment section below. Subscribe and hit the bell icon, that way you never miss out on another 2017 DuckTales series review. And if you want to find me on social media, Google Duuz-Diz-Din, as I am everywhere, for better or for worse. And until the next video, just remember that money can buy you a lot of things, but it's time and love that can buy you bonds as strong as family. Till next time, I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and I want a nap. Bye-bye.